welcome back to our channel. I'm Steph.
And I'm Michelle, and today we're going to share with you how to update a kitchen island for less than $200 without replacing cabinets.
We're excited to show you how you can make this transformation from a builder grade basic to this custom look. And for this project, we're using a paint that is new for us, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more throughout the video, but be sure to watch till the end because there will be a discount code that you can use for all of these products.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our DIY projects.
Be sure to head to the description below for a list of supplies you'll need for this project, including links for easy shopping. And here's a quick reference to the cost breakdown. The total for all of this is just $185, although we only paid $74 because we only needed to buy our shiplap. So not only are we starting with our builder grade basic cabinetry here, we have this big dent in the side of our island, and I had tested different colors of blue for a mini island makeover a couple years ago, and I didn't prime it because I was just testing colors out, and then we decided to do our basement first. And anyway, so this paint has been on here for a couple years and it's been scratched off by the kids, and it's been this way a little too long. So we're ready to get this island going, and we're excited to show you how you can transform your builder grade basic cabinetry in your home at a fraction of the cost. First, we're going to start by removing all of the quarter round. We are planning to make this more of a craftsman look, so we're going to start from scratch. And this is really easy to do with a painter's 3-in-1 tool and a hammer. Just pry it away. Ours were just nailed into the sides. And the corner trim work was just applied with glue, so those popped off really easy as well. Then we removed all of the drawer fronts, the hardware, and our cupboard doors.
Also tap that like button if you find this video helpful.
And since we plan to paint our cabinetry, we are using TSP, trisodium phosphate, to degrease the cabinetry. This works much better than any other cleaner to clean a surface with any greasy residue like in a kitchen. Just follow the directions on the box for the mixing guides, diluting it with water, and then you'll just use a lint-free rag and wipe everything down, and then when you're finished, you'll just wipe it with a clean wet rag to remove any residual cleaner. We also found it helpful to use an old toothbrush inside the little crevices of the cupboard doors. This was able to get little particles of dust or food that had spilled, so really easy to do. Just dip it in the solution and scrub till they're clean. To add a bit more character to our kitchen island, we found these nickel gap shiplap panels at Home Depot. They come in a 4x8 foot piece of panel board, and we're just cutting this down to size on our table saw for the sides and the back of the island, just to give it a little bit more interest. Then to cut out the opening for our electrical outlet, we have mapped it out on our side panel on some frog tape, and we are using a drill bit to drill a hole in each of the 4 corners, and then we will use the jigsaw to just roughly cut out that opening. Now the cuts don't need to be precise because it will be covered by the outlet cover, but you do need to make sure that your measurements are just big enough for that outlet to pop through, not any larger. Once the panels were cut to size, we just dry fit them into place, securing them with a little bit of frog tape. This just let us double check that everything was lined up correctly, that all of these nickel gap grooves were lined up, and then we were ready to get installing everything. I also want to point out that we plan to install these panels directly over the existing panels on the island, so we don't need to remove those or anything. We're just going to go right on top. And we decided to let this paneling come all the way down to the floor, and we are going to fill in this side piece of our toe kick, and we'll show you how we're going to make that look a little bit more custom a little bit later on. Now for the molding or trim work, we are going to use a header board at the base of the island. We had some left over from finishing our basement this spring, but you can definitely buy your own. They are about $3.44 a linear foot, and they measure 1 inch by 5.5 inches tall. And for the vertical trim pieces, we are using Craftsman door casings we had left over from our basement again, but you can grab an 8-foot board for about $17, and the dimensions are 11/16 by 4.5 inches wide. Once we had both the base header board and the vertical casings cut to size, we just taped them into place as well, just to make sure that everything fit properly, especially right there around the outlet. We did buy a paintable outlet cover that can be cut down, so we do plan to do that. But this just kind of gives you a visual of how the island will look once everything is painted. I opted to use this header board instead of your typical baseboard for our base around the island because it's a little bit wider, and I liked that it gave it a little bit more of a substantial look and stood out a little bit farther than the other trim work. You'll also notice that our vertical trim pieces are just butt up next to each other, but you could absolutely cut those on a miter as well and have a little bit cleaner look. I was just going for that basic Craftsman look that was already through the rest of our house, keeping it the same. To prepare the drawer fronts and cupboard doors for painting, we're just giving them a really light scuff sanding with 400 grit sandpaper. The paint we plan to use is new to us, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but it did not require any sanding because it's supposed to bond to most surfaces. But I just wanted to be really sure that it would bond after going to all this trouble and work, so that's why we're giving it a very light sanding. We're also drilling a little pilot hole in the bottom of the drawer fronts and the cupboard doors for hanging them while we paint. We used this method for our first time when we painted cabinetry for our basement this spring, and it worked really well. And you're going to place an eye screw into those pilot holes, and then you'll be able to hang your drawer fronts and cupboard doors up with a hanger while you're painting, so you can actually get both sides of the cabinetry painted at one time. As mentioned before, we're using a paint that's new to us. We'd like to thank Black Dog Salvage for working with us on this project. They're an architectural salvage company based in Roanoke, Virginia, and home to a TV show you may be familiar with, The Salvage Dogs. They upcycle reclaimed materials into custom furniture and interior design accents. So they are like right up our alley. We just fell in love when we learned about this. So their paint line was crafted due to their need of a product that would adhere to a variety of surfaces, as many of the salvaged items had remnants of old paint, lacquer, varnish, or wax. Their paint is a water-based latex acrylic blend with calcium carbonate. While it's created as an interior furniture paint, it does need to be sealed with a top coat, and it is not meant as a wall paint. But the fun part is they also have over 70 paint color recipes available for you to mix your own unique shades specific to your project. We made our own Sunny Side paint color recipe using equal parts of Blue Ridge and Black Dog to custom match the existing navy paint used throughout my home. One of the appeals for us was the need for little prep work. The only prep work that is required is cleaning with TSP, like we talked about earlier. So let's talk about spraying versus brushing. You can do either when applying this paint. They don't recommend using a foam roller, where this seems to push the paint around rather than smoothing it across. So we did use our sprayer for the drawer fronts and cabinet doors with our little method for hanging them up, just so we could get both sides done at the same time. And we brushed inside the house around the face frames of the cabinetry, so we didn't have overspray from the painter inside the house. Both methods worked really well, and they both covered nice and smooth. One tip they recommend when applying with a brush is to lay it down and let it be. If you go over it and over it and over it, it's actually going to put drag marks in the paint because it dries really quickly, and you're not going to be happy with the finish. So just lay that paint down and leave it alone, and it has self-leveling properties, so it's going to end up with a nice smooth finish. We also opted to use our sprayer with our shiplap panels, just so we could do as much spraying as possible and keep all that dust outside. Be sure to allow the paint to cure for at least 24 hours before you move on to the top coat. This can also be applied with a sprayer or a brush, and we are using their top coat in Guard Dog. It's their toughest top coat, but it can amber when used over lighter colors. So they do have another one called Show Dog, and that is made from the clearest non-amber urethane and the clearest acrylic to offer that same protection on lighter colors. After the top coat has dried, you can install your trim molding and the shiplap paneling if you're using that. We are using some construction adhesive. You can get it in like the Gorilla Glue brand or Liquid Nails. Both work great. The glue is really what's going to hold these into place, and we do tack them into place with some 2-inch brads as well. That will hold them into place while the glue sets up. The trim molding pieces were installed the same way with some Liquid Nails and the brads. You can also see here that the molding is a little bit lighter shade than the shiplap. That is because they have not received the top coat yet. So this gives you a good visual of the paint without the top coat. It's just a flat finish, and then when you have the top coat on, it gives it a little bit of a sheen, and it also deepens the color just a little bit. Again, here on the back corners, you could use a miter cut so they would fit nice and snug, or just butt them together like we are doing. The next step is to putty in all of the nail holes and caulk in the seams, and after those have both dried, you'll just sand the putty marks till they're smooth. We then applied a second coat of paint to all of those molding pieces. After the paint had cured, we applied top coat to the molding pieces with a brush. We also updated our hardware from this matte nickel finish to this beautiful antique gold, and we will have an entire video all about this, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that, and when it goes live, we will put it in the description below. Here's a quick reminder of what our builder's grade kitchen island looked like before. And here's what it looks like after. It's still crazy to me that just a little bit of trim work And even if we didn't put the shiplap paneling, if we just did the trim, it would have updated this so much. So it was really easy to do, and it makes a huge difference. Here on this toe pick area, we just cut a piece of molding on an angle and secured it into place, so it just looks a little bit more finished and custom.
We're so glad to have you here. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned a few things. And if you liked this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends and comment. Also be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our weekly videos. And as always here at Sunnyside Design, we hope to bring your home to the sunny side of the street.